it's a question of time, and time is my best weapon and my best place of solace, because when the time comes, when the time comes, I'll be unstoppable. It's just gonna happen. For you to move from one place to the other, you've got to conquer the greatest fear that you have. Once you conquer that, and you've made your mind, you're not coming back. I think one of the things that I say to people, I say your eyes are your worst enemy. Because too many people see other people and they want to be like other people.
Hello and welcome to the Real Success Show. I'm your host, Candice Mama. If you are at a place in your life where you are searching for your purpose, where you are wondering what is the next step for you, how you're going to achieve it, and what you need in order to achieve every single dream and ambition you have for your life, today's speaker is for you. His name is Selekane. He's an author and one of Africa's best speakers. Billy's going to talk about a life of purpose and how you can attain it. But before we jump into this interview, make sure you are liking, sharing, and subscribing to this podcast so that more people will find us. Without further ado, here's Billy Selekane. Selekane, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Real Success Show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Candice. I see you doing absolutely amazing. That's really inspirational to always see you. You're one of those people that, people like me don't retire. We don't stop doing what we're doing. But if I were to stop, I'll be happy that it's in good hands in your hands.
Oh, Billy, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. But, Billy, I've looked at your career and it's an incredible one. You are someone who inspires people, not just by teaching, which is incredible, but also because you've walked the path. And so you wrote a book. It's titled Barefoot to Snakeskin Shoes. I love that. So tell us, where did that all come from? Where does Billy Selekane come from?
Well, I always, how do I put it? Okay, I was a typical South African story. Born in a poor township, born in a poor household, born in the times when it was really dark, when we were fighting the system, dabbled in all kind of things as a young man who's searching for his own identity. But there was one thing that it's kind of a strange thing, but I've always had a sense of knowing that I'm going to make a big impact in the world. The how, I didn't worry about the how, but all I knew was I was brought here for a particular reason. In this country, as a Black person, as a Black man, in this family at that time, and that used to spook a lot of my friends, because when we were really, really desperate, I would keep telling them the narrative that, guys, you can become as big as you want because I'm going to be very big and blah, blah, blah. I'll travel the world. And my friends used to look at me and say, man, come on, don't do this to us. Whatever you're telling us, there's no prospect of it being possible because there's nobody who looks like us, except the Americans who do what you're telling us you're going to do and what you're telling us we've got the potential to do. So it has always been like, and a lot of my friends used to be really frustrated with me because I was never moved by this knowing. I was never moved by the fact that I knew that I was brought here for something bigger, and not for myself, but for my nation, for Africa and African diaspora. So for me, I've always felt that I was brought in here to awaken the African child's dream, and also to show them the path of where and how they should work to get to that dream. So it has always been just like that.
Oh, Billy, that is powerful, but that is also, a very difficult journey because, it's one thing to carry that sense of knowing, right? And so, and I know that feeling because I can relate completely. However, even in that knowing, it does not make your journey any easier to get where you're going.
Knowing makes it more difficult because you then don't want to compromise yourself. You see small little opportunities and people get excited about them. You say, no, I'm not doing this. This is far below me. People say, but show us something big and different. And I've always been saying, it's a question of time, and time is my best weapon and my best place of solace, because when the time comes, when the time comes, I'll be unstoppable. It's just gonna happen, And yeah, knowing it's a difficult thing. It makes the journey even more difficult because eventually, people think you're delusional, very close to being crazy, literally saying, no, this man needs help. We need to, interventions about family, they do interventions on your behalf. Say, man, please, we need to pray for this man. So I've gone to those behind the scene interventions, people thinking, no, man, no, this guy has to normalize a little bit. He's got to do, what we normal people do. And I tried, by the way, to do the normal thing for 5 years. It felt like I gave away 50 years of my life. I worked for 5 years. It felt like I was working for 50 years. And one day I just thought, no, I can't do this. And when I quit, people says, man, you crazy, you can't do this. And I said, guys, I'm not this. This is not who I am. This is not my gig. Maybe it's yours, maybe it's other people's, but it's not mine.
It's so profound. And when you speak about that difficulty of, in those moments, I love your sense of humor, and I use humor a lot as well. However, sometimes people can look at like a Billy and say, oh, he laughs through it. He talks about it in such a light and fun way. His experience is different to what I'm experiencing. His darkness is different to my darkness. So when you were in that place of darkness, when things weren't happening, when that knowingness wasn't transpiring physically, how did you keep yourself sane? What were some of the things that you did in order to keep your mind together?
So, I put a post some time back. I think I was in KZN at this hotel, and just something hit me. And my post was quite simple. I was saying that I'm a son of a driver and a domestic worker. I did not have iPad, Netflix, Yahoo, Google, iPhones. I didn't have all of those things, but I had a dream. That's all I had. And amidst all the adversity that was facing me, my dream kept me going. However, Candice, there's a family called the Winans. I'm sure you know BBCC and those kind of guys. There's a song that they have in one of the most successful albums. That song is called Millions. Now, the message of the song is basically this: they're saying that so they will die and they'll meet God, and they'll talk to God and say, millions did not make it, but I was one of the ones who did, So that song, at the darkest time of my hour, when I would be locked in my room and I'd be in tears because I had absolutely nothing. And the world around me was almost crushing me, when everything is just crushing me, when the reason and the knowing doesn't matter anymore, when people saying, you either have or you don't have, either you join or you're out. And I would go to a room and I would close my eyes and I would listen to the song like over and over again, and I would cry. I mean, copious tears, like deep, deep tears. But I would not cry out of despair or out of fear. I would cry out of transcendence, I would cry out of letting go of this external pain, but so letting go of the external pain and releasing this thing that I was sent to come and do here, and confirming with this thing that we're still going through this journey. We are going to get there, So yeah, and that's why I say, people now they say, oh, I live in a shack, blah, blah, blah. You've got internet, you've got Wi-Fi, you've got smartphone, you've got a democratic country, you've got a global world has got no borders anymore. We lived in a border, in my times, Buputatwana, you needed a passport to go to Mafikeng. People don't get these things. You needed a passport to go to the Transcare, you needed we lived in an era where we were completely closed in. And we would watch, the small black and white television, watch old American movies dubbed in Zulu, Xhosa, whatever, So we lived in a literally black and white world, not in a colorful world like people are now. The world is colorful now. There's Google, there's all kind of things. So for me, that song, Millions Did Not Make It, and I was one of the ones who did, was the song that really was reassuring me of the promise of contribution, that you are here to contribute.
And you pointed out something so beautifully, which is, in today's day and age, there are a lot of issues. There's still a lot of problems. We're not trying to overlook that. However, the world you lived in, the world you were growing up in, was so diminishing to you because of the color of your skin, because of just who you were in essence. And it minimized the possibilities that you could achieve as a Black man. So how did you stop the external world from getting within you? How did you stop, the affirmation that Black men weren't good and they were less than? How did you stop that from entering your soul and believing it?
Candice, it's like, like I say, I'll give you a little example. So I was born with the gift of art. I could paint, I could do poetry and stuff like that. And I wanted to be a professional artist. That was I wanted to become a professional artist. And therefore, what do? You research art. That's just my brain. I go to the library. And then I fell in love with Salvador Dali, the Spanish artist. And why Salvador Dali? Because Salvador was very, very clear. He says, you're not gonna sell my paintings for a lot of money when I'm dead. You're gonna pay me now, So, and I looked at guys like Salvador Dali. I'm thinking, the confidence of this guy is like, he says, you're gonna pay me now because I'm gifted now. I don't have to die like Van Gogh and Picasso and all those guys, and my paintings now start making millions. And I used to say, we have the same, we get given the same. He's got 24 hours, I've got 24 hours. He had to, so he's in a different country, I'm in a different country, but we get given the same. We get given the same time, we've got brains, And if I'm going to allow the external world to define my internal world, then I might as well give up. So for me, the defiance was coming from inside. I was defying the system. I was saying, you can beat us, throw tear gas at us, and do all these kind of things, but you can't touch my soul. My soul is too powerful to be touched. You can chop my hand, shoot me, whatever, but you ain't getting to my soul, because this soul has a much more bigger assignment than what you're trying to take away from. You're never gonna touch me. And that was my attitude. And yeah, it's kind of funny, because as young people would sit and have these big debates, about, and when I became a political activist and whatever, and one day I asked a question that really got people very angry. I said, guys, we're fighting as a collective now, we want to liberate, blah, blah, blah. Then I said, what's going to happen the day after? And people say, the day after what? I said, the day after we get this liberation we're fighting for, what's going to happen to you individually? What's your plan? And people were very, it was like, I was called names, I'm becoming reactionary, blah, blah, blah. But I was asking them a deep question, because, to belong to a group is easy, but eventually you've got to become a accountable individual. And for me, I realized that no matter what circumstances I find myself in, ultimately I have to account. And whoever, the super intelligent God, whoever sent me here, I think they're going to call me one day and sit down and say, okay, we send you. And you knew what we wanted you to do. Did you do it? I don't think that I was going to be asked about how many cars I've had, how expensive suits I wore, the watches, how many countries I've been. I was going to be asked this one question. Did you do that one thing that we sent only you to do it? And for me, that has been my lighthouse. If I got lost, I'd go back to say, you know what, I'm sent here for a particular reason. If I fail in doing that, then my celestial assignment was a waste. So wow. That kept me going.
Wow, that is it's like being in a sermon. And so you go from this dream that you have to be an artist, right? Yeah. Which is, that's your gift, as you said. That was what you were sent onto earth to do. And then you become a motivational speaker and a writer. How does that journey transpire for you? What leads you from one place to another?
Well, I think it's the same thing expressed differently. I still am an artist. I still am a connector of people. Art is about connection and emotion and spirituality. I still do the same thing as a speaker. So how the transition happened is, I went to UNISA and I got an age exemption to go to UNISA and study art. I went first year, did history of art. Second year, it was time to become practical, and I didn't have the money to buy paints and canvas and those kind of things. But all my life, I've always been an entrepreneur. I started my first business at the age of 9 or 10, I've always been in business somehow. And when my inability to continue studying and paying for my fees, I then said, if there's one thing that I know, is to do business. So I put in a group of friends of ours, and we designed a mini rent show to be done in a township. People was like, you crazy. I said, no, we'll do it, And we did it, by the way. And towards the build-up of that show that we were going to have in Tembisa, we were invited to a seminar. And when we got to the seminar, there was a speaker. Well, number one, I did not know what a seminar was. All I knew that there was going to be nice food. I said, okay, if there's nice food, I'm coming. So I went to the seminar, and there was this speaker. And I had an out-of-body experience. I literally became him, and he became me. I mean, when I'm saying literally, I mean literally. I mean, this thing hit me like, this is the assignment. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And it was crazy. It was like, oh my God. And I mean, this guy spoke for an hour. In that hour, I was gone. I was in him, and it was crazy, you know? And when the seminar ended, actually, even some of the guys that I was with, they said, what is wrong with you? And I said, what do you mean? They said, something about you is different. I said, what do you mean? I think they could have sensed that spiritual transcendence. You know, some people could sense it. And from that day on, I then said, I need to do this. But the question was, how do I do this? It took me 10 years to do it, because I did not know how to do it. And here's another thing. You can't stand on stage and tell people about success if you are not successful. You can't stand on stage and tell people about wealth if you're not wealthy. You can't stand on stage and tell people about overcoming stuff if you overcome nothing. So for that 10 years, I was just in a, you know, I was planting my bamboo trees. You know, for the first 5 years, you don't see the bamboo tree. Then after 5 years, it just shoots up. You know. So for the next 10 years, I was like working on myself, but like in a very scary way, because I knew I had to do this, but I also had to leave. You know, I also had to live and to do this kind of things. And that's when everybody said to me, listen, get a job. You know, just get a job. And I thought, okay, let me get a job. You know, and I went and I got a job. Now I started earning a salary. Now I started buying tapes. You know, I don't know if people know tapes. It's a funny thing. Candice, do you know what a tape is, Candice?
I do.
You don't know what a tape is. You do? Oh, really? Are you really retro? So I started buying Les Brown tapes, Jim Rohn, you know, Zig Ziglar, Charlie Tremendous Jones. And, you know, with a money thing put in a post office, it disappears for like 3 or 4 weeks, and it comes back after like 7, 8 weeks. You get a little slip that says, what's happening to the Zoom now?
Oh, you're still here. I still see you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but I can't see you. Why I can't see you? I don't know what's happening. So if you can still see me, it's fine, but I don't know. Okay, here we go. But why is it not? Okay. So I would buy these tapes, you know, Jim Rohn, Les Brown, Zig Ziglar, whatever. And I would, and my friends used to say, listen, Jim, we're not coming to your place anymore because you make us listen to these tapes. So, and I would call my friends and say, hey, guys, I've got the latest Les Brown cassette. They'll say, we're not coming. Because they used to say, come on, man, what's wrong with you? Just leave us alone. And I started listening to this content, like religiously, you know. And then I was still working. Then I started sharing with my colleagues, you know, guys, I've listened to Jim Rohn says ABCD, you know, Les Brown, blah, blah, blah. And something fun was happening. When I was, you know, applying some of the techniques and stuff that I've learned from them, things would happen, you know. I was struggling with this and suddenly I'm not struggling with it. I'm thinking, wow, this stuff really works, you know. And then eventually in my work environment, I became the go-to guy to help solve issues. Then I learned about strategy and all these kind of things. And then our company was being merged with another company, becoming big, whatever. And they brought in this guy, his name was Howard something. And Howard was a turnaround specialist, very super smart guy. And then Howard took us into a seminar, another seminar, then something fascinating happened. He brought us a guy called Anton van der Post. Now, Anton van der Post is the grandfather of motivational speaking in South Africa. And at that time, when we went to this seminar with Anton van der Post, he gave us, you know, we had our name tags, and he had his name tag on the desk, and it had CSP at the end. And I thought, wow, this guy's amazing. And everything that he was teaching, I almost knew, because I read about this stuff. I was listening to tapes. And I remember one lunchtime I went to him and said, wow, this is great. I want to do what you do, what. And usually, you know, when you tell people you want to do what they do, what do they tell you? They don't say, oh, good, come, I'll teach you. They say, it's a difficult thing, you know, blah, blah. And he's a white guy and I'm a black guy. I'm a black little guy. He's a big, old white guy. He's been doing this for years. And here's a black guy saying he wants to do this, actually he can do this. It was like, whatever. But at that time, I knew that, you know what, I can do this. Because I observed the 2 days that this guy facilitated the workshop. And I said, you know, this guy is good, he's experienced, but I promise you, I can do this. I actually even became a little bit arrogant in myself. I said, I think I can do it better than this guy. Which was crazy. And then after that seminar with Anton van der Post, like they say, the sail was set. You know, the sail was set to a particular direction. I was going to quit my job and I was going to become a motivational speaker. And I didn't care who said what. I had the tapes. I had listened to the tapes. I'd done the exercises. I've seen a shift in my life. So I'm going to do this. And, and then we went to a conference as an organization at Glen Ben Lodge. Now, Glen Ben Lodge had a partnership with the Dream Team, which was run by a guy called Gary Skerritt. And they had obstacles, you know, but there was this one obstacle that nobody ever conquered. It was a long pole. You had to climb up to the end, but the higher you climbed, it wobbles, and the longer the steps became. And I said to myself this because I remember when Jim Rohn said that for you to move from one place to the other, you've got to conquer the greatest fear that you have. Once you conquer that, and you've made your mind, you're not coming back. So I then said to myself, I'm going to do this. And if I'm the first person to do this, then I'm going to quit. And I climbed this thing. And when I was on top of this thing, my mind was made. I was living. And it was the biggest thing for me. Then I came down, they gave me a nice trophy, blah, blah, blah. We took shower, went for a gala dinner. And again, people that were sitting within the gala dinner looked at me and said, something is different about you. What's happening? And I said to them, I'm quitting, I want to go back. They said, what do you mean? I said, I'm leaving, I'm going to start my own business. And they were like, no, what business? You're going to fail, you know. But my mind was made, and my mind was made, and I was not turning back. And I remember when I went to go, I used to drive a company car. We used to have an office in Midrand. When I went to go and deliver that car, now remember, when you're driving a company car, it's impossible for you to have your own car. Because why? You've got a free petrol, free service, free everything. So I remember I put in my resignation letter and I dropped the car. And Candice, I walked to the taxis. Now, my walk to the taxis, I turned back 100 times. Because now, I'm going to be in a taxi. And you understand that this is like going back from this high to like zero. But my mind was made. And I was willing to fail. I said, you know, I'm going to do this. If I fail, at least I would have tried something. At least I have a story to tell. And when I knew that this is not turning back, is when I was sitting at the back of a taxi crammed with other people like this, the taxi making its way to Tembisa, I knew that was it. I was not going to do this anymore. I'm going to start my business. So for me, I've had many, many turning points and many moments of truth, but this was the biggest one for me because I was moving away from a dependency on a salary, getting into a world I didn't even know, but I was convinced that it's my world. I was convinced that this world is going to take care of me. I was convinced that this world is going to do exactly what I knew when I was a young man growing up in Tembisa. I knew that me and this promise have now found a place of convergence, and we want to do this. And as they say, the rest is history.
Wow.
And by the way, I became the first African CSP. Now, CSP stands for Certified Speaking Professional. So those three letters, when I saw them in Anton van der Post's name, stayed in my heart. And in 2011, I became the first African CSP. So,
wow. Congratulations. That is incredible, Billy. Geez, what a journey, what a story. And when you left your job, right? Because it sounds like it was such a sudden moment where it was just like, hey, I'm doing it. There's no turning back. Did you have a nest egg? Did you have a savings? Did you have a home that you knew that, okay, I've already down paid on this house, so at least I'll have a house to stay in? Like, what was that like for you?
So I had no savings. I had a home that I was living in, which was quite amazing. That this home I was given, like literally given, and I was not required to pay rent. It used to be a property that belonged to Eskom. And somehow a friend of mine connected me, I got given this house. So I didn't have a nest egg, and I got given this house. And my first gig was somebody said that Telkom, which is now, it's called Yellow Pages. You remember the Yellow Pages? They are now digital. They were going to set, they had a sales team, blah, 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 but they wanted to set up a key account department or something. And I'd read all these things, zig, like, you know, I was this guy who was like, I knew stuff. And I said to this guy, hook me up with the HR person, the manager, I don't care. I think I can do this. And I went in there and I met up with I think it was the sales director, and said to me, oh, we're looking for this kind of person. And then I had a presentation to show them, you know, I had papers with me. Sat with them and I put my papers on their wall and I told them how I'm gonna do this. And then the deal was gonna be a 12-month deal, but I told them that as I'm doing this, I'm launching my speaking business. So there's gonna be but I'm gonna be loyal to deliver them on what they want, but I'm also building a business. So they agreed and said, come on, make it happen. And I didn't have a car. I had gone to that interview using a taxi. So now I've got this deal, which I must deliver on. I must go there, blah, 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 whatever. I didn't have a car. So my uncle at that time used to sell cars, used to buy cars from the auction and sell them. So I went to him and said, listen, I need you to borrow me a car for 3 months, you know, and I don't know how I'm going to pay you, but I will pay you. So tell me how much you want. And he gave me the scrappiest car in that yard. It was a green Mazda 323. It literally had a hole, you know, where there was a gear, there was like a hole, you could see the tar road driving. It didn't have a petrol, what do you call this thing? You didn't know how much petrol you had. So you had to always stop and put 5 rand, 10 rand, 20 rand, because you never knew where it was going to stop. It was a disaster, but I didn't care. I had a job to do, I had a car, so I'm going to do this. So started doing this job, blah, 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 that, you know, started paying me some decent kind of amount of money. And then in that time that I'm wanting to become a motivational speaker, I know stuff, but I've never been on stage. But I tell people, I'm this kick-ass guy, you know, I can do this. The only stage that I've been is my friends, you know, I've always been getting friends together. And most of them literally ran away from me. They said, no, we're not coming to you anymore. Funny thing about it, Candice, some of them meet me today and say, oh my God, if we could have listened to you. I said to them, it's not late, but this time I'm charging in dollars, you know, show me the money. It was free then, you didn't want it. Now you're going to have to pay. Oh, it was so funny. So then I knew that I wanted to find a credible partner. Because who am I? Billy Selekane. So what? What have I done? Don't have a degree, I've got nothing. But, you know, will I tell people I've read Zig Ziglar, I've listened to Chris, you know, to the tapes, they're going to say, have a nice day. So I then started searching for a partner, and one day I was driving in Main Road in Bryanston, and I saw this big board, the Win-Win Group, theater, training, blah, 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 and I said, I'm getting in here. Drove in, parked, went to the reception, greeted the reception lady, says, yes, how can I help you? I said, who's the CEO of this business? And she said it was a guy called Steve Carver. And I said to him, can I please see him? This lady says, excuse me, sir, you need an appointment to see this man. Now, as I'm speaking to this lady, this Steve Carver guy comes out from the bathroom, he picks up a phone and he says, Steve Carver speaking, and he stops there. So I'm thinking, I'm not letting this guy go. Now, this lady's on the reception, he sees Steve Carver, I don't have an appointment, so she can't jump from the reception desk and stop me from stopping. It was like a big mess, you know? And as soon as this guy dropped his phone, I went straight to him and said, hi, Steve, how are you? He said, fine. He didn't know me. I said, well, my name is Billy Selekane. I want to become the top speaker in the continent, and I believe you can help me. This guy was like, oh my God. He was like, you know, taken aback. And, you know, he stretched his hand and we shook hands and he said, listen, I'm traveling for 2 weeks, but come and see me in 2 weeks' time. And this lady was like, on my case, but mission accomplished. Got out, drove my car, went back and did my stuff. 2 weeks' time, I was back. Now, I get there, now I have an appointment. Okay? I go to say, hi, I've got an appointment with Steve Carver. Can I see him? Calls him. Steve Carver said, no, tell him to come upstairs. It was a Cape Dutch house that had a ground floor and an upstairs. So I went upstairs. It was an open area. And Steve says, here's my man, wow, because he's been telling people about me. And I got there and says, this guy, he says he's going to be the top speaker in Africa. So please stop doing the work. He's going to give us a talk. My God, I'm thinking this guy is kidding me. And I'm thinking, oh my God. But I said, you know what? I want to be this. I want to do this. Gave them a keynote for, I think, 35 or 40 minutes. When I was done, everybody just went back to their computer and started working. I was unfazed. I just didn't care. I just said, I have a journey, I'm going somewhere. These are people that have got their own issues. I'm going to do this. And Steve sat me down and said, so how do we do this? I said, I don't know, you tell me. Then he showed me a library. They had a massive library. I said, well, here's a library, whatever thing you need here, you can start reading some books, watching some videos, and I'll take you to one of my facilitation staff so that you can see what I do. So I started reading their books, watching videos and whatever. And so I'm still finishing that contract with setting up that thing. Now I was so inspired by this organization that I finished that contract in 8 months instead of 12 months. I handed everything out. I said, guys, thank you very much. But they still had to pay me for my 12 months contract. I was excited. I mean, it was like crazy. So the next thing Steve Carver said, listen, we need to get your desk. We need to get a computer. They get me a desk and they get me a computer. Now I'm looking at the computer. I'm thinking, okay, how do I get this thing on? Because all this time I was working on paper and people typing for me and do. Now I've got a computer. I'm thinking, oh my God, how do I do this? And I'm the only black person there. The other black person is the receptionist and the driver. I'm looking at these white people. I'm thinking, I'm not asking them. So I go down. I go to the reception lady. I say, you know, how's it fine? I say, I'm going to buy you lunch. I pull out the $50. I say, I'm going to buy you lunch. She says, oh, really? I said, but I need a favor. She says, what favor? I says, I don't know how to get a computer on. Can you come and get the computer on? She said, yes. She took the $50. She came and got the computer on, but told everybody that I couldn't get the computer on. So it was like, oh, this guy who's going to be the top speaker in Africa cannot even get a computer on. So people laughed, but I was unfazed because I'm from Tembisa, you know. My life was the X Games. So I'm not going to be faced by some white people laughing at me. They don't know what's going to hit them because when this thing hits them, they're not going to know what hit them. So I then started learning from Steve Carver, you know, started going with him, facilitation and whatever. And I remember at one point we went to do work for Unilever and Devon. 3-day workshop, leadership workshop. And by then, Candice, I have read over 5,000 books on strategy, leadership, motivation. I'm like this walking library. I'm this guy who knows stuff that people don't know. So first day, Steve facilitates the whole day, you know, put the manuals there, prepare the projector, prepare his coffee. Steve is Mr. Miyagi, I'm the Karate Kid, you know, walks in, walks out. You know, that's what you do. You just do what you got told. And on day 2, when we have lunch, I say to Steve, you know, can I just do something as well? Now, Steve Carver, this man, without this man, I don't know, man, this man has been so profoundly deep in my life. So here's this guy says to him, can I take over from lunch? Steve is a crazy guy. He says, cool. So what do you want to do? I said, no, I've prepared my stuff. He says, take over. Candice, I take over the session from 2 o'clock. And it was like, I was in heaven. You know, I don't know how to explain it. It was like, how do I explain it? I mean, it's when Michael Jackson wrote Lady in My Life, when Quincy Jones produced We Are the World, when Lewis Hamilton just won the 100th race, it was that same euphoric emotion. And I was so into this, we even jumped the 3 o'clock tea, the way I was into it. And then by the time we looked at time, it was 4:45. And then we had to wrap up, and Steve said, wow, you know what, by the way, I've got a thing to do. So tomorrow I'm not going to be here. You're doing the whole day tomorrow. But I was really on fire. You know, I was like, this is me. And the next day I was on my own and I did this thing. And the guys were like, wow, you know, you're so amazing for a black guy. So, and then people start asking you, oh, do you have an MBA? Blah, blah, blah. I said, hey guys, if you know, I didn't even have a matric. I don't even have a matric. I had an S in matric, you know. S in matric means school leaving, means you and education have to go separate ways, you know. and I got inspired by the review from the people or whatever. And then, you know, Steve would introduce me to people and I'd get 1 or 2 speaking engagement there and there. And then I said to myself, I've got so much knowledge. I know so much, you know, stuff, but I need to master the art of speaking. I need to learn the science of how do I get on stage and capture people, both intellectual and emotional, give them good content, but uplift their spirit and give them something that they can take away with. Then I started studying Nero Cobain, studying Scott Friedman. I studied some theatrical work, you know, and I started being I mean, I used to sleep like 2 a.m. in the morning. I'll be practicing, putting a mirror in front of me. I'll be writing scripts, and I'll be watching, movies, redoing the voices in the movies, like the most powerful speeches, I'll do those powerful speeches. And when I got my first big speaking engagement, I mean, I got on stage, and in that day, I had so prepared that I knew that after this, I'm going to be completely untouchable. I'm going to be so good at this that the global thing is going to happen. And I tell you, I got onto that stage and I delivered a keynote that was, I mean, I had a 15-minute standing ovation. That's when I knew I can do this. And, people started hearing about me and I mean, 98% of my work came from referrals. Never marketed, never sent one email. I still struggle with this marketing story of landing pages and all these kind of things. So I've always been the guy that people refer to. People have heard me, they know my story, they say, you've got to listen to this guy. So it doesn't mean like that.
Ooh, what a story, Billy. Like every time you speak, it's just so inspiring. And I think it's something that everyone can resonate with at some degree or at some point. In your experience, what holds people back from pursuing their purpose? What holds them back completely from doing what they know they're destined to do, but choosing not to do it?
I think one of the things that I say to people, I say, your eyes are your worst enemy. Because too many people see other people and they want to be like other people. So if you did not see other people, you'd want to be yourself. You'd want to be the authentic you. And that's the challenge. And the challenge is people spend a lot of their time externally. They never spend a lot of their time internally. And they live unintentional lives. So they don't have an intention. They want to succeed accidentally. They think success is an accidental thing, that one day, I'm going to become successful. It's not that. You've got to live intentionally. And living intentionally means you've got to know exactly what you want. What do you want? And don't tell me cars, what. Drug lords have got the most expensive cars, the biggest jet, the biggest houses, the biggest whatever. Don't tell me about those things. Those things are very peripheral. What contribution and impact do you want to do in your life? And there's no bigger or smaller purpose. There's no bigger or smaller contribution. We can speak English today because some teacher who was teaching a small little class in a township school poured her love out of English to you. And today you can speak English because of that teacher. Many other people have gone through that teacher. And today they are doctors, engineers, whatever, because one person knew that this is who I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to do. Therefore, I'm going to pour out my love to these kids so that they can transcend and go to another place. So what is your thing? Is it through singing? Is it through painting? Is it through design? Is it through engineering? Is it through cooking? Is it through baking? What is your thing? Every one of us has their thing. But too many people are never going to get to their thing because they want other people's things. That's the challenge. I have a lot of people say, I want to become a motivational speaker. And then I ask them the question, why you and why the topic? Why should it be you? And why should you be talking about this topic? And most of the time, they can't answer that question. And I say, you guys, you think, he's flying around the world, he's having a nice life, nice ties, what. I say to them, I'm a student of this game. I've been doing this for 22 years. I'm still a student. I'm still learning. I still sit at the feet of great men and women from around the world and drink from their well of wisdom. I still go and serve other men and women for me to learn from them. Unless you're willing to serve, you can never grow. And too many of these people just want, but they're not willing to serve. Yesterday I was working with a group of ladies. They're going through my personal mastery program. And when I finished working, I was on my way home and I got a call from this guy. I had to park on the side of the road. He says, please park on the side of the road. I need to tell you this story. So this guy, I met him 5 years ago. Now, when I met this guy 5 years ago, Candice, he was losing his house. He was losing his job. Life was bad for him. So he took my coaching program. And I said to him, let me tell you, my chief, this is not an easy game. You have to humble yourself. You have to do the work. But if you do the work, I guarantee you, that guarantee I can give you now, your life will turn around. Now, yesterday, this guy tells me he's debt-free, His business has made 18 million. He's made a profit of over 2 million. He's bought a house cash for his family. I mean, this guy is telling me and says, all of this happened because you told me, you taught me, and you walked with me through this path. And for me, when I hear such stories, it just confirms the fact that you have to do the work. There's no magic wand. I'm still doing the work, Candice. Look at my back here, books, flip charts. Look at the flip charts. I'm doing the work. I still do the work, you know. We never arrive until we're gone, because eventually it's about 100 years from now. How are people going to know 100 years from today that have been around? Is the impact and the legacy that I build every day with what I do and the people that I work with and organizations that I work with. But I don't look at what other people do. And a lot of people are very easy to say, oh, so between you and the speaker, what do you think? I tell them, I think nothing. He or she is fantastic. She's the best. And they say, but you are better. I said, no, I'm not better. My path and their path are completely different. My gift and their gift are completely different. So to his, according to their needs and abilities and what he or she's doing, good for them. And I support them, because you can't compare one soul with another. It will be a crime against God. I mean, who are you? What are you trying to do? We all have our own celestial assignments. And we will meet each other in this path, inspire each other, hold each other's hands, but ultimately it's about your purpose and your contribution and your impact.
Jeez, what a profound answer, and what a beautiful answer, filled with both practical skills that one can implement, but also the knowledge that you need behind that, because you're so right. If you want to be successful, you need to have a spirit of service. What is your gift going to do for other people? It can't be a selfish assignment. It has to be a selfless one. And that's beautiful. So in conclusion, as we're coming to the end of our interview, what is real success to Billy Selekane?
So, Brian Walsh, we've known each other for 150 years, I think. My first website, Brian Walsh built it, literally. So that's how close we've been. And one thing that has always been consistent about Brian Walsh was his wanting to connect the best teachers to the best seekers of knowledge in the world. That's his thing. That's all he wants to do. He says, I want to find the best teachers in the world, and I want to make them available for people who want. And when this thing happens, then he gets fulfilled. So my relationship with him has always been that we are working in the same field, in the same farm, with the same laborers, but all of us are doing it differently. He's got a platform and I'm still doing the work, you know, physically and connecting and teaching and facilitation and consulting. So real success for me, and Candice, I'm sure you know that when you send an email, I did not say, oh, because yes, I'm available, blah, blah, blah. So each time there's a call, an email from Real Success, it's yet another platform for me to impact and to meet and to teach and to connect with the global community. Because once we raise the consciousness of the world, you know, people say we want to leave this world a better place. I said, no, we want to leave our children better people for this world. So the real success for me, it's about making sure that we leave a better people behind so that they can treat this world differently. And so that 500 years from today, people can know that we were here.
Wow, that is beautiful. And the final answer, the final question I will ask you is, what is one thing about Billy Selekane that we will not find on Google?
Oh my God. Oh, this is a dangerous one. I might go to jail. Okay, one thing you'll not find on Google and you will not find anywhere is that in my younger days, during the days of the struggle, I was a gun runner. I usually used to, you know, our MK kind of like underground. I was the guy who was always seemed to be innocent, but behind the scenes, I would shoot guns, whatever. So you won't find on Google. And I hope the CIA doesn't see this. And the next thing I go to America and say, let's have a talk about those guns. Yeah, but you know what? It was in times of war, we were organizing, making things happen and stuff like that, you know. So yeah. So it's a kind of a crazy one, isn't it?
It's a brilliant, brilliant way to end this phenomenal conversation, Billy. Thank you so much for your graciousness, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Candice. You're such an inspiration. Like I always say, you're one of those how can I say? You're my muse, you know, in a way.
Oh, that's beautiful, Billy. Thank you. Thank
It's
you.
a pleasure. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you. You too. This conversation was mind-blowing. If you want to make sure that you are listening to more incredible speakers, just like Billy Selekane, you might want to catch my interview with Kate Gray. She is phenomenal, and she speaks about how to build your brand, how to master your business. Until next time, I look forward to seeing you again next week.